Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the concluding session of ILS 2018. We started our day today with a panel discussion on policy making, and we intend on a similar yet a different note. And mind you, this is going to be big. Our first guest, Mr. Thakur, is currently the Telegraph's Delhi-based roving editor. He began his journalistic career with Sunday magazine in 1984 and has been associate editor with the Telegraph and the Indian Express. He has reported extensively on Kashmir, Bihar and socio-political conflict in the subcontinent and has written books on Mr. Lalu Prasad Yadav and Mr. Nitish Kumar. He earned a bachelor's degree in political science from Hindu College, Delhi University in 1983. Join me in welcoming Mr. Sankarshan Thakur. This ILS was centered around stories of men and women who have been agents of change through vision and relentless perseverance of the goal in sight. And staying true to the course, we bring to you our final offering, the story of a man who has been a catalyst of change in the most influential domains in the country, one that touches each one of our lives, a man rightfully dubbed as the Kingmaker. Widely recognized as India's most sought-after political strategist, Mr. Kishor is a former UN official who is credited with revolutionizing election campaigning in India. Mr. Kishor is considered the key architect of PM Modi's 2014 Prime Ministerial campaign, where he brought together a team of young professionals under the umbrella of Citizens for Accountable Governance. Mr. Kishor and his team, the Indian Political Action Committee, was also responsible for crafting Nitish Kumar's win in the Bihar state elections. And in 2017, Punjab state elections, they helped Congress secure its first major electoral victory in the last 5 years. And what makes this more special? The fact that ISB has the privilege of hosting him on a public platform for the first time ever. Please put your hands together for none other than Mr. Prashant Kishor. Over to you, Mr. Thakur.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here and giving me this opportunity. I'm seeing Prashant in a pajama kurta after a long time. I don't know if that is a sign of what this evening is going to reveal to us. Just briefly, I mean, he needs no introduction in an audience like this. Just briefly to establish in front of you my connect with him. I met him shortly before the 2015 Bihar election, when he had probably just begun to work for Nitish Kumar or was on his way to working for Nitish Kumar. As a journalist, I have kept in touch with him since, because it's our job to keep in touch with such people. He has not given me a shred of news in all of these years, but he forever exudes the potential of possessing news, which could be important, because he hangs around with big daddies, with Narendra Modi, with Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi, Nitish Kumar and Lalu Yadav. And these, you know, it should be apparent to you, these are very contrary characters, they are contrary people. Who are you working for now?
Frankly, thank you. First of all, thank you very much for having me here. It's a great privilege to be among all of you who I'm working. After UP, I haven't taken any assignment as such, but I do work with ISRCP, a commitment which I made much before UP to Jagan Reddy. So that assignment is there. Other than that, I'm not working anywhere. Not for anyone.
But we keep hearing that you are two-timing Modi and Congress. Keeping in touch with both Modi and Amit Shah and Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi. Are you denying it? Are you not in touch with them? How do you do it?
No, I don't know the word two timing. Yeah, if meeting is two timing or working, then of course I meet a lot of people. But make no mistake, meeting is not equivalent to working. And because you want to keep it humorous, I'm not that big a person to deny an invitation from Mr. Gandhi or Mr. Modi or Amit Shah or whoever. And it's also because of the respect for the chair they hold. If they invite you, you have to go. Naturally, when I'm sitting with them, we are not discussing.
That's what I was about to ask. Why would you sit down with them? What would you talk with them?
That you should ask them rather than me. Why do they ask me to come and meet? But naturally, we are talking politics. But again, I qualify and repeat this, that meeting someone, talking to someone is not equivalent to working with them or for them.
But is it not sort of a contradiction for you or a difficult thing for you to be in touch with absolute rank enemies on the political scene? You worked with Narendra Modi in 2014, then you went to work with someone who had very bitterly broken with him in 2013, Nitish Kumar. Then you went on to working with Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi. I mean, do you not have any ideological anchor yourself? Are you just a gun for hire?
This is something which I hear and read about myself and for all my group, that whether we are gun for hire. Let me tell you, we are not for hire. No one can hire IPAC because there is no finances involved which would incentivize us to work for someone. The question about why you work with one person and then move to other is a different one. But definitely you cannot hire. Modi did not hire us. So as Nitish. Neither did Congress hire us. And out of 3, 2 are apparently broke. So they can't hire us if you think. So all the numbers which you read, 400 crores, 500 crores, I wish a part of it would be true. If not for me, at least for my colleagues. And many of ISB alumnus who would have worked with us, we have been constantly struggling to get the resources which they so much willing to spend, but they never do. On a serious note, yes, it has been a journey from Modi to Nitish to Congress, but it is not, money has been the last criteria that would have made us move from one side to another.
No, but give us a sense of what makes you make those moves from one camp to the adversarial camp to the third adversarial camp. What's the motivation that takes you from one place to the other? And I'll come to why you moved from the first place anyhow in a bit.
So first of all, as young people, you need to understand they're not as adversarial as they look in the public. So be careful. A lot of what you hear, and courtesy colleagues of Sankarshan, that they're fighting each other, they can't talk to each other, that's for public consumption. Having said so, see, ours as the first campaign we did, we started in 2012 with Mr. Modi, and it was more of an individual effort from my side. When I left UN, came here to work on malnutrition, ended up doing what I do. And trust you me, in my wildest of dreams, I would not have thought doing what I'm doing. In our family, like many of your families, if you talk about politics, people will say, "Lagta hai padhai likhai ka man chhoot gaya hai, politics karenge." But as it so happened, it was a gradual process. So I give a couple of examples. Like if I used to write speeches in UN, the skill set remains the same, but you end up writing speeches for the leader. We used to use a lot of statistics to gauge why people go for immunization, or why they behave, why they don't hand wash, or why do they breastfeed or they don't. The tools for the analysis remain same. The questions changed. Why do you vote? Why do you don't vote? Why do you want to vote for someone? So the basic tools remains, and that probably what Mr. Modi would have seen. And I must give credit to him, because for all others who I have worked with later on, had a reference of 2014 or before. It was Mr. Modi who actually saw that this guy could be put to some use, some other use as well. Once I did 2013, then 2014 was a natural progression because he did one Gujarat and it was obvious that he will go for the India campaign, and being part of his team that we did. We expanded it, and as I got more people, numbers increased from 2 to 5 to 10 to 12. There was this debate about need to have an administrative unit. So anyone who tells you that I had, or for that matter anyone had a vision to start a CAG is lying to you. There was no vision as such that let's start an IPAC, let's start a CAG, let's become a political aide or campaign person. At that time we were just driven, most people who came to work with us were driven by their idea to come, become part of this election process and help Mr. Modi win. You'd be surprised in the first meeting when I had about 25 young people from best of colleges and professional organizations who came. I asked them what should be the salary, what is the money which I need to provide to have you guys come and work. The average was 27,000. The people on their own, the average what we took was 27,000. So we started with 50,000 subsistence allowance. That is what CAG paid to everyone who chose to come and work with CAG for the Modi's campaign. So all this idea of hundreds of crores and profit, top line, bottom line is all what people like him report.
It seems I am in the dock here.
It's not for some reason. But a lot of people write about it without being aware of anything what has actually happened. Post 2014, the biggest question has been that why did you leave Modi? Is it because Nitish paid a very hefty check? I tell you, he doesn't have any. But, 2014, there was an idea in our head that what we would be doing once he wins the election. And it was nothing to do with what media reports about me and Amit Shah, me getting a post or someone writing a check. It was about an institution which we wanted to set up, which would be a kind of extended arm of the PMO and be responsible for decentralization of last mile service delivery. But more importantly, what was crucial there was opening up the government for the lateral entry. Because I genuinely believe that the last mile service in India, if ever has to change, these two things has to change, which is to decentralize. There is no way, no matter how efficient the government is, no matter how efficient the leader is, unless we decentralize, there is no way we can improve delivery on the ground. And second, I strongly believe that the best talent is not necessarily going to government, at least in last 10, 15, 20 years. So for that matter, governments have to create institutions, bodies, procedures, protocols to allow youngsters to come seamlessly, work with government, and maybe go back. Something what we did in CAG or what we are doing on the political campaign side, for your understanding, and trying to create an equivalent of same for the governance. And I can tell you on record, Mr. Modi was very, very receptive. Not only receptive, he was participant of that idea. He loved it, he wanted to do it, but maybe he was too new when he started, and to be fair to him, maybe I was in a hurry. I wanted it to happen in a matter of 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and he probably wanted to settle down. And obviously, as you would have seen recently, there is a small little ad about 10 people, lateral entry of 10 people, and such a hue and cry. Imagine someone is telling him that create an institution where you can have thousands of people who can come and work and go back. So my sense was, and this is my assessment, that at that time, people who advised him in government would have told that it is too big a risk to take right at the very early stages of your government.
So they scuttled it.
I wouldn't say they scuttled it, because when I met Mr. Modi even recently, he said the same thing, that we were new in the government and you were in hurry. And I have to take that my share of blame, that I was in hurry because I wanted for that to happen almost immediately. So sometime I think in August or September of 2014, I told him, and I realized that maybe he is not very comfortable taking this forward. So I have to figure it out my own way, because I'm no longer part of the key priorities of the core team which he wants to have around him. Though at a personal level, I always shared a very warm relationship with him, all through. So in November, I met Nitish. Before that, I have never ever met Nitish in my life. Even though he comes from my state, I have never ever met Nitish before that. In November, I happened to meet him. He was not the chief minister, because he resigned from his post. He went and he was just a leader of the party, which was recently demolished literally, electorally, by the Modi wave, as people call it. And we talked about it, and somewhere the people who remained in CAG, we started having this doubt that, oh, did we actually know something, or we were just riding a wave? So as many of you who have studied or have come from science background, in theorem, mathematics theorem, we say, prove it both way, then we write hence proved. So we looked around and we say, if we do it other way around, it has to be Nitish, because he has the right credentials as a leader, but he has been lost, maybe for the want of an army of supporters, professionals, who probably could help him streamline his campaign. And then Bihar happened. I'll take 2 minutes to quickly tell you why I would move from Bihar to Punjab and UP, because that will settle the score to some of you who have an open mind, that it's not money or any criteria, but the fact that in 2015, after the victory in Bihar, if you could recall, those who follow politics, in 2015, BJP lost only 2 elections. One in Delhi, the victory was of AAP, and we won in Mahagathbandhan won in Bihar, which was November 2015. So there was this chatter that who is a better campaigner? So AAP or IPAC. At that time, CAG was regrouped as IPAC. And the chatter that started on social media, literally between their volunteers and our volunteers, and we got sucked into it. So Congress did not approach me or anyone. We said, okay, at that time it was popular perception that AAP is going to sweep Punjab. So we thought that if we can make Congress, with all their shortcomings, which is being mentioned, which people talk about, if we can make them win against AAP, then we can say with surety that yes, we know the art of campaigning. That took us to Punjab. And the proof of this is, if you know there were 5 more elections that happened in 2016, April, which included Assam, West Bengal, Tamil Nadu. We did not work with Congress there, because we only were interested in settling this score with AAP, which is, you can say it was like a bit childish, but that's what took us to Punjab, not the money which Captain would have give. He doesn't have one. I can again tell you on record. At least before 10 years, he's out of power. And he's an old king. So that took us to Punjab. Now, the only state or the campaign which we took out of these criteria was UP. And that again is, you can say, you're young, you get excited, and there was this debate that which is the biggest political challenge if one has to take. And invariably the answer was revive Congress in UP. So I happened to meet Rahul, we had a long discussion, he said, can you do this? And we spent 3 months, 3-4 months between February 2016 until April. And we thought, and I still believe, that we had a plan. And we presented it to Rahul, and the Congress leadership, who, because that time he was only the vice president, and they liked it. They said, we are all for it, let's go for it. But you know what happened in UP. We were humbled, and that's the best thing that could have happened to us. So after that, we haven't taken any campaigns. I'm just telling you the journey and the rationale or the thinking behind taking each of these campaigns. And none of this was because we do not believe in ideology, or someone wrote a check, or we wanted to be positioning ourselves as anti-Modi or for Modi. It was just youthful exuberance, you could say, that you want to win one challenge, then you feel, okay, I can do the second, then you took the third, till you are being put in your place. Then you get more realistic and say, last 2 years, everyone is writing, I'm going here, I'm going there, I'm going here, I'm going nowhere. Because I don't want to make the similar mistake of taking a challenge which I'm not prepared to necessarily do.
Just as an aside, Nitish doesn't have money, Rahul doesn't have money, Captain Amrinder Singh doesn't have money.
I did not say about Rahul.
Neither did you say about Modi.
But do not put your word in my mouth.
I said you did not say about Modi either.
I told you who has got money. I did not say who has got money. I told you the two people who we worked with. They were not necessarily
money people.
Punjab Congress, Amrinder Singh. I don't think, I'm very comfortable telling that they didn't have resource to fight election.
What went wrong with Rahul Gandhi? What went wrong in the...
Nothing.
No, but why didn't it work? I mean, why didn't you stay and work? The challenge was still there of, as you said, reviving the Congress. Congress is not a UP party or a Punjab party. There still is the challenge of reviving the Congress across this country. And that challenge you seem to have abandoned.
Yes, because Congress is not my party. It is for the Congress leadership to decide what they want to do with the party. After UP, yes, I did take a deliberate call not to be involved if I'm not able to execute, because that's what we learned in UP, that you could have the best of the plans, but if you're not able to execute it, then it can only lead to disaster. And since then, we have been friends. I have no hesitation in accepting that we are friends. We meet, we talk, but we have agreed to disagree that we need to be working together, because he has his own views, and rightly so. He's the Congress president, elected Congress president. He has his own ideas, he has his own vision, he has his own plan that may or may not be something which I'm convinced. So what is the point in just joining hands if both of us, we are not on the same page on the path forward? And hence, we choose not to work, at least not until now. But I wish him well, and I think he's doing what Congress is expecting him to do. Or
you think he's Prime Minister material?
Who am I to say?
No, you worked with him. I mean, come on. Listen, you work with someone closely, build up a strategy, work with him on one election closely, on another tangentially in Punjab. You have to have some sense of whether he makes the grade or not, or does he have the potential to make the grade or not. One man that you worked with made it to Prime Ministership. Another that you work with, why won't you tell us whether he has the grades to make it or not?
Listen, it's the people of this country who has to judge. He has to prove to them. He doesn't have to come good to my assessment. He has to come good to the assessment and the trust of the people of this country. I happen to be one. Now, you are forcing me to say what I think.
Well, of course I am. I very much am.
Then there is a reason why ballots are secret.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. I'll take that. Do you think Priyanka would have made a better Congress president or a politician? You seem
To the best of my understanding, she's not in public life. So it's not
She's
fair.
deeply involved in Congress affairs though.
I worked closely with her in UP, but that too, she was in the background. She's not in active politics, and I'm nobody to suggest whether she should be or it's her call. And more importantly, it's a call of the Congress party. You and I have to give to the wisdom and experience of the congressmen and women. It's a 100-year-old party. No matter whether they are down, whether they are doing good or bad, you have to leave it to their judgment to decide who they want as their leader. We from outsider can have our views, but let's not just push it.
We got our answer here.
No, but
you have your views, but you can't push it.
60, 65 years they have ruled this country. So they have elected someone to be their leader. He has just started. I think we would be grossly unfair to him not to give him the chance and start speculating about a third person or second person who is not even in the politics. So what's the point?
I'll ask you a slightly removed from politics question. What is it that you bring to politics or election, the conduct of elections, that political parties traditionally have not brought? I mean, one sense was that Bihar was the victory of merely the votes of Lalu Yadav and Nitish Kumar and the Congress coming together. And so why does Prashant Kishor get so much credit for, a juggernaut that had rolled Bihar only months before it was stopped? The grab was prevented. What is it that you do with elections and politics that is new and that was not being done and that adds to the potential of political parties to do better than the competition?
First of all, we have never claimed, and I must be on record, we never claim that we do X, Y, or Z. We are just part of the process. And we, or for that matter, any individual or a group of people who you attribute victory or loss is being overrated. So by that definition, people like me are hugely overrated. We cannot change elections. We cannot change election result. This is what media tells you because it's convenient for them to write about it, because there is someone, some individual, some group of people who you can attribute a lot of things which you want to attribute.
We just woke up one morning and got enamored with Prashant Kishor.
Sorry?
I said we just woke up one morning and got enamored with Prashant Kishor and started writing about him.
No,
is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that you see something, but it is easier to attribute things which are, tangible. There are a number of people, they are doing some things, but to have a cause and effect relationship, that because of this you won. Now, I hear and read about this, that was it the Gathbandhan or quote unquote Prashant Kishor and his team? Was it the Modi wave or what did they do? We did nothing. At best we would have contributed on the margin. But you have to give one thing, that what does the young people who work with me, and more than 3,000 have worked in last 2-3 years and have come, worked, gone, and to pursue what they want to pursue, is they bring tremendous energy, they bring exuberance, they bring energy, they bring efficiency in whatever little work you do. I give an example. If you have to put posters on the doors of the households, someone coming from Amazon or Flipkart will definitely do it better than, say, common worker. So that's what we bring. We bring probably more efficiency, we bring more order, we bring more system to what it is being done, but it is not something which has been invented or discovered by me or people like me. If any one of you would have followed election, of course you have followed many, just look at how an MP or MLA fights his election. During election time, they get the best of their people, their friends, their relatives, who are seen as good organizers. Someone is managing his office, someone is managing his schedule, someone is managing his speeches, someone is managing his finance, someone is managing his distribution of collaterals. That has been done for ages. What we have done is we probably has taken it to the scale, bringing together hundreds or thousands of young people who are capable of doing such things and those politicians who require and possibly could benefit from service. This is not a rocket science. It's the same thing done with dedication and some degree of efficiency. So if you are looking at I do X, which is unknown to the politician, I think you would be making I would be making fool of myself. There is no way I can bring any knowledge, any expertise, which is not known to the politician who has given his life fighting elections. How can I add value to that? I can just help him become more efficient, more organized, nothing more than that. If for that you want to attribute, but where is the interview, where is my quote or my people who say that I have or we have helped someone win election? It is for them to see. It is for media to write.
Who is the politician you've been most comfortable working with, or you think the relationship has been most productive? You worked with 4 or 5 major ones.
So productive is a very subjective, nuanced word. But by and large, people who are in control of their affairs and their party's affair, it's easy to work. Because once they are convinced what you are suggesting, and if they like, they can get it implemented. If they themselves are not in control, then possibly you could face challenges, but that's part of the game.
Who was the one not in control?
Sorry? So there are, I know Sankarshan, being the journalist which he is, he's fishing for some name to make the headline. So there are leaders who are more in control and there are leaders who are less in control. It is also to do with the fact the culture of the parties are different. A BJP or a regional party or a Congress, you cannot put all on the same pedestal. It is far easier for a regional party leader to get things executed because it's more or less one man or 4 or 5 people who run the affairs. If you're dealing with a party like Congress, which is 100-year-old, it has got its own history, culture, work pattern, it's not easy, no matter how strong a leader you are. So
I do remember writing a piece before you began working with the Congress, that the Congress is far too huge a behemoth. It will take a lot of time to turn around and will eventually eject you. Is that how you think things panned out?
Not really. You know, I see in Punjab, one of the unfortunate things is the Punjab elections were clubbed with UP, so no one talks about Punjab. The same Congress party with the same set of work culture, the same constraints, whatever people write often, got their biggest victories post-independence. This was one of the biggest victories post-independence in Punjab. Captain Amrinder Singh, 77-year-old leader. So what make you think that it is Congress cannot win? They can win. So I wouldn't generalize and say it is very difficult to do it in Congress and very easy to do it in BJP. Both has got its own set of challenges. Sometimes we are able to navigate and sometimes we fail. The failure is because of me, not because of the Congress or the BJP.
Have you come across a politician who you thought was underrated? Who had potential in your eye?
Politicians are always overrated. Most of them.
You haven't come across an underrated politician?
I'm sure there are many, but by virtue of them being underrated, probably I didn't meet them or I didn't have much.
I told you, he hangs out only with the big daddies.
No, the fact is, if you are brilliant as a member of parliament and you're underrated, it wouldn't, probably I wouldn't have had an opportunity, and that's my misfortune that I didn't meet that underrated leader. But whoever we meet, they're all brilliant. I tell this to my colleagues who come and meet us, who come to work with us, that most of the politicians, we think they're not smart, they are not articulate. They might not be as articulate as you and I. They might not be speaking the language which you and I do. They might not be using the tone and the tenor, but they are very, very wise and smart people. They understand many things which you and I will take years to learn. So do not, for all what we say about politicians, do not underrate them. They are some of the very high caliber people are there, and many of them are well-meaning as well. And the proof of this is, look at and most of you here, many of you would say, okay, these politicians, sab aise hi hain. But you look at the voting pattern in India. In the last 15-20 years, for all the politician thrashing and bashing we do in our drawing rooms and the living rooms and the bedrooms, we go and vote. And few years back, when Nota was introduced, a lot of people thought that Nota will get a lot of votes. But in reality, it has become inconsequential as far as the election results are concerned. That means, people say, who do I vote? I have no choice. But look who they are voting. People are not coming from Mars to vote. It's you and I who are voting. And we are not voting for Nota. Though when we talk, we say, all of them are same, what's the point? I don't feel like voting for anyone. But you and I go and vote for someone. Democracy is not about, to the best of my understanding, democracy is not about finding the ideal. It's about finding the best among the available lot. If you keep waiting to find someone who is ideal, I'm afraid you'll never get one.
What is your sense of how you worked for the 2014 campaign? We are heading into the next one now. What's your sense of how Modi has done as Prime Minister? Frankly, he promised a lot. He came on a huge high. What's your assessment of how the man you helped get elected as Prime Minister of this country has done?
Every voter will have this question.
I'm asking you.
And they will answer, and I will answer also as a voter. Depends on a serious note, it depends on the reference and the parameters on which you want to judge him. If your reference is the high expectation that he is going to change everything, or everything in India is going to change in next 2 years or 3 years for better, you might find him someone who has not delivered as you or I expected. But if your reference is what was happening in last 3 years before he came, or last 5 years, or what we are normally used to get from our own governments, on certain parameters he would have done better than expectation. On certain parameters probably he would have done less than what was expected. But to have a blanket assessment whether he has done better or worse, I don't think I'm capable enough to do that. But each one of us, depending on your reference and what matters to you as a parameter on which you want to judge a leader or a government. For someone, economic parameter could be very high on the list. For someone, it could be tolerance, religious harmony, all those things. And their answers would be different. Both of them would get a different answer. So that's what I think.
The socio-political temper of the country doesn't worry you at the moment?
No, I'm not worried, to be very honest. As a citizen, I'm not worried about what some people write. This country is too big, in my opinion, it's too big, too diverse, too strong to be rattled by some elements with which you and I may or may not be comfortable with. We must have the faith in our own wisdom and the cumulative wisdom of 1.2 billion people. No one individual or institution or a group of people can destroy it in a hurry. It's not possible.
What is your current relationship with the Prime Minister and his party president?
Sorry?
What is your current relationship with the Prime Minister and his party president? I believe you meet both of them very often. These meetings have increased in the past few months in terms of frequency.
So, I haven't met or talked to the Prime Minister after I formally left his office to the best of my recall, it was March 2015.
That's a lie.
I'm telling you. I'm coming to it.
Oh.
Between 15th of March 2015 till last year when I lost my mother, she was in ICU, so Prime Minister, he called, he was kind enough to call. In between, for all the speculation, there has been no connect either from his side or from my side. In between, I was not in touch with him.
Fair enough.
So the conversation or the reconnect happened when my mother was almost on her deathbed. He called, and since then we have been talking. I've met him many times, and that is it.
Talking about what?
I told you at the beginning, if I'm sitting with the Prime Minister, he's a political leader.
He's a busy man as well.
It will be about the government schemes, it will be about whatever. He's the boss, I'm nobody. Whatever he chooses to speak, I have to respond to it. So, if he asks me, what do you think of Ujjwala? I will tell what I think of Ujjwala.
Has he mentioned the word Ghar Wapsi?
No, not to me.
I'm asking. It's a fair question, since you're here.
He, in his opinion, I was entitled to do what I did. If I ever choose to come back, he's more than welcoming, and I'm grateful to him for that, to have that view. But specifically, we are not discussing about whether you are coming back or going out. He's too big a person. With the Prime Minister, you don't discuss coming back or going out.
What do you discuss with him is what we want to know. And you are taking us round and round in circles.
You ask people, am I taking you around in circles?
Well, let's take a vote on this one. All right.
Okay. So why don't you break and then ask, and I'll try my.
No, it's a simple question.
Ability to answer what he like any political leader would talk about politics. What I think, what I hear, what the situation like, what are the government schemes that people are happy about, what are the schemes that could be done, what could be bettered, whether what he hears, probably he would like to hear from me, my opinion about the general conversation that happens in the country about in and around political affairs. And that's a lot of topic to talk.
No Ghar Wapsi.
Sorry? We can't go anything beyond that. I have given you, I've tried to give you...
And with Mr. Amit Shah?
He's the same.
He's not the Prime Minister. Governance is not his concern. His concern is the party, elections.
But these are linked. Governance and elections are not separated. Elections will be fought based on governance, their record, what they promise, what they've delivered, how people see it. And I personally have not found much difference between the line of discussion or the questioning or the queries that come from one or the other. It's almost the same. Maybe when Prime Minister is speaking, he would be speaking more on the government side about the schemes, and when Amit Shah is speaking, maybe he would be speaking more about the party. But net, it's same.
On the basis of what you said this evening, if I were to ask you what you tell them, you will say it's privilege, right?
Sorry, come again?
If I were to ask you what you tell them.
I tell them with whatever little understanding I have, which is not much compared to them. They are in politics for the number of years which is my age, equivalent to my age. So what can I tell them which they don't know? And they have a huge army of people, party, people who can bring scientific information, assessments. So what someone like me can add, maybe whatever I say, whatever I know and I say, choose to talk to them, they use it for the triangulation of some of the information which they would already have. I don't think I'm bringing something new to them which is unknown or not understood by them. I think I would be naive to believe that.
I think we're running out of time here. I have two last questions. What has taken you so long to come out and speak in public with a journalist on record?
Because I frankly for all these years, even when ISB guys approached us, I told, and you can check with them, that I don't think I have enough to talk. I don't think I've done anything significant to come and talk or to lecture about. I'm as small a student as you are. If any one of you go and choose to do what I'm doing, probably many of you would be better than what I'm able to do. So I never felt the need to come out and say things as if I have learned. If any one of you would have followed, I even tried, someone persuaded a friend of mine to write a book. And when we went through some of it, I realized that I have got not much to tell. Because if I write what I have been through, then it becomes tell-all kind of masala, gossip. There's nothing valuable which I could write as my understanding or part of wisdom which I want to share, which could be productively be used by others. How a campaign was thought, or what one does, what is the daily routine. If I choose to write about that, it's not something that will stay for long. And that's why I dropped the idea of writing a book. So that is one of the reasons why I have never choose to speak on any platform. Journalists, I'm still not convinced that I would be talking to journalists on record, but going to...
You are talking to one on record right now.
No, but I am talking to the
it's all
colleagues
going on
in
record.
ISB where journalists happen to be a moderator. I'm not talking to Sankarshan, the journalist from Telegraph. I'm talking to someone, the colleagues, the friends at ISB, and that's how I see it. It's learning both way. And that's the reason I specifically requested them to keep it interactive, because I want to hear from them. And
one last question before we throw this open to the House. 2014 Modi, 15 Nitish,
I knew this is
Congress, UP, Bihar, then two timing. Now, 2019, who are you batting for? I mean, the question is so obvious, but I wanted this to be the last question. Who are you working for in 2019?
Frankly, if you want to believe me, I really don't know. If it is two timing, three timing, I don't know what phrase you want to use it for.
As you said, we are journalists.
One thing is clear. I can be on record and say that for last 2 years or so, I've been trying to get out of this domain. And most probably, and to people who work with me, I've told that I will be quitting this post-UP. Only reason I did not do so is because UP results did not go our way. And for me, it would not have been right to leave the organization at the time when the going were not necessarily good.
Are you saying that Prashant Kishor is no longer available to political parties in their election backrooms?
I can say that. That in 2019, you would not see Prashant Kishor campaigning for anyone in the manner and form in which I have been campaigning in 4 or 5 years. But that's different from IPAC and me. I as an individual would not be campaigning in the same way I have done in last 4 or 5 years. And this is a call which I took almost 2 years back. I didn't want to do it, but because of UP, I had to stay put to make sure that IPAC remains. And I'm glad that IPAC is where it is. They are almost 20 times bigger than what they were in 2015 in terms of manpower. They have got many more projects to choose from and work. And more importantly, they have right set of people who can better the work which they have done with me. I'm sure they will do much better. There is the right leadership there, and they will take this forward, and they will make it much bigger than what I could ever imagine for IPAC. But personally for me, I want to leave this space for new people to come to do what they could do better than me, and I'm sure they will. And I want to do something which connects me to the grassroots, which takes me back to the grassroots. I'm 41, and I want to spend another 10 years, at least 10 years, if not more.
This country is full of grass. Which part of the country is grass are you going to?
Back to the grassroots.
Which grass?
Most likely I will go back to my own state, where the grass is much known and familiar to me. So it could be either Gujarat, where I have worked and learned the tricks of the trade, or
could be
my
Bihar.
birthplace, which is Bihar, where I go and I work there. But you would not see me campaigning in 2019 the way you saw before, for good or bad.
Are you saying you're joining politics?
Did I say that? Anyone heard
I'm asking. You're saying you're joining public life.
Now you know the story before you came to the...
It's already, you know...
How the speculation goes on.
I will tell you why I'm asking this.
But 6 years.
I will tell you why I'm asking this, because before we came here, 2 hours on social media, it's been burning with Prashant Kishor to join politics. And since that question has already been thrown up in the media space, whatever you think of it, I'm asking you, are you those people have not asked you, who are putting out those stories have not asked you. I have an opportunity to ask you, are you joining politics?
If you go by what media says, or what social media chatter is, then I worked with Modi, mera ghar wapsi bhi ho gaya, I've joined Congress, I have worked with every possible political party or leader which possibly you could think of. So that much value for what media has speculated a couple of hours before, because why did he choose to speak after 5 years? There has to be a reason. And that reason has to be, okay, now he's joining politics. Come on. I chose to work because I like ISB. I admired ISB. I wanted to be part of ISB. 16, 70 years before, when ISB was conceptualized, when it was being put forth, we as a student, we looked and aspired to be part of ISB. Because one other reason could be because I do think that I'll not be doing campaign. So I thought, okay, this is the right opportunity to come and speak, and this is the right platform. Media just got added to it. I know some media friends are here, and then Delhi and Bihar and whoever has written this, that there has to be a reason. He doesn't do anything without any reason. If he is speaking, there has to be a reason. If he has met Modi, that means Ghar Wapsi has to happen. If he has gone and met Rahul, that means now he has finally decided to be in anti-Modi camp. Now I have been reading, hearing and living with this for last 6 years.
But you have made through these years, you have made exactly those transitions. So not all of it has been false. You have moved from Modi to Nitish to the Congress.
Yeah, but that was
back
not,
to Modi.
I told you why I moved, and
yeah, fair enough.
That was not something what media guessed. And I'm sure I can tell you that much, that media will be wrong again. All I'm telling you that I want to go back and work with the people and at the grassroots, rather than working with the leaders. I've worked enough with the leaders. I worked, as you said, it was your word, that I work only with big daddies and meet. I've had enough. So I want to go back to the grassroots and try to learn in a new way whatever I could do. And for me, it's a right opportunity because I can leave IPAC in a safe hands. They will do very well, and they are very safely placed for another 2-3 years at least, whatever I can see.
Thank you, Prashant. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Throw this open to the House now, and if someone is going to...
Questions? First up is Shatakshi.
This whole data thing in an election context is overhyped, as much as we are overhyped. You don't win or lose election because someone has a set of data. I have heard the conversation that happened around this Cambridge Analytica, and strangely they talked about that they worked in Bihar in 2009. And a senior journalist called me to say, what is your take? And I told him that you just don't need any inside information. Just go back and look in 2005 how many Facebook users were there in India. Forget about Bihar. What Cambridge Analytica could do if not even 1% of population of Bihar was on Facebook or smartphone in 2009. And there's endless debate on television that who do they help They help nobody. They just claim that they, maybe to gain more clients, they, on their website, they were claiming that they have helped X, Y or Z. So I do not see data integrity from that point of view. Now coming back to how do we deal with it, is that we do not have data as such unless it is coming through a campaign. So the campaign data remains with the organization. So for example, when we say give a missed call if you support a cause or a leader, that person, the profiling of that person or the communication to that person largely remains with the campaign team with some protection obvious. But how that could be misutilized, frankly, I haven't thought through it, and I haven't seen, and I don't believe that it could be misutilized, that if I get BJP missed call data and I put to the Congress, what Congress can do? If I, it's about you going and convincing people. You can't convince people just because you have data or you have got some additional information about them. It helps, but it doesn't, it's not a game changer, not yet in India. All this machine learning, data analytics, this big phrase of big data, parties setting up analytical cells and all, they probably add some value, but make no mistake, they cannot change, they cannot have any bearing on the election outcome. Definitely not in the time which I see next 5 or 10 years. Maybe 10 years down the line it could be. Like smartphones in 2014, which is talked so much about, use of technology. We were working with 5 crore people having a smartphone, now it's 35-40 crores. So that way it has become very important. But having data about citizens, I don't think it would have meaningful impact on the election or your strategy in any way. Anyway.
Okay. Thank you.
Next up is Akash Binjrajka.
I'm Akash. So my question is around the same with what she asked. Is that how do you see or what kind of an impact do you see emerging technologies like the Neta app having on the oncoming elections?
I just see it as one more thing. Frankly, it's like the coffee and the froth. All what you hear, read, attribute to us, to yourself, to so-called these tech guys, tech gurus, social media, it's still the froth. Coffee is still somewhere else.
Coffee is here.
It's not something that can make a change. It's important. I'm not trying to downplay it. A lot of people see us as a social media guy, technology guy. I have not used laptop since Gujarat elections. And I have not used iPad also in anything in the last 2 years or so. I don't see that as a big constraint for what I do, or what I don't do. So this whole idea, a lot of people who came in Bihar would say, but where is your war room? But there's nothing. It's just a table and chair. People come with this notion that there will be machine, there will be a lot of people, because television they show it. What they show you as a war room is actually nothing but the call center, which is right at the bottom of the hierarchy of the organization. Campaign setup, they are at the bottom. So you see, especially on the Hindi news channels, with all due respect, look at so and so war room, how people are calling, how data is being used. That is nothing but the call center. An ISB guy is not phone and talk 10 years, 10 hours, 12 hours. If I do that, you will run away. No one does that. It is about people. It is about understanding them. It is about connecting their aspirations with what leaders are promising or should promise or could promise. And then making it a bit more engaging, the format. In terms of format, engagement formats, you could be a little bit innovative. But beyond that, all this war room, machine learning, we are still far off. Make no mistake, this country has got 800 million people who doesn't make 100 rupees a day. 800 million people, that's almost like 70% of your voter, does not make 100 rupees a day. So what influence you can have on them using Facebook? They are struggling to put the bread in the plate every evening. I don't think they have time to surf the net or spend 8 hours on Facebook or share the picture. There is also 300 million people who are actively on social media, smartphone, Facebook and all. But in terms of vote, everyone has got the same vote. So if you are in a smart election advisor or political aide, you rather focus on 800 rather than putting too much or being consumed by this, winning over this 300 million.
Next up is Janakan Manivanan.
Hi Prashant. Here.
Oh yes.
How did you manage to collaborate with in-party strategists, and how open they are to the external agencies like you? Because generally what we read in news that you have the Führer's permission, the leader's permission, and the other next rank leaders are averse towards the external agencies.
So this is another thing which you need to understand. There is nothing called external and internal. At least the way I have worked. I was living with the person I'm working with. So I'm more internal than any internal. So this is something that has been written about in the last couple of years. When you meet with the failure, people try to find reasons, retrofit their understanding. Oh, he was external, he was internal. No one talked about external, internal in 2014. No one talked about external, internal in Bihar. When something doesn't go right, then people come with these fancy ideas, look for the reasons and retrofit it. At least the way we work, because we are not charging a professional fee, we are not a vendor, then you're not external. You are very much part of whoever they are. You might not be, in one way you are external if you're not holding the party post. But in every other way, you are more internal than the party members themselves.
Next up is Anand Shekhar.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi Prashant. So my question is, the majority of Indian democracy has seen people who have either been influential, powerful, rich, or goons, or all dominating the Indian political scenario, and the common populace has largely, remained aloof of taking part in politics, as you rightly said, the kind of perception we have at our household regarding this. But of late, we have had initiatives like, let's say, the LAMP or the Chief Minister's Fellowship, or let's say the Telangana or the AP government recruiting from ISB to work with the political and bureaucratic ranks. What do you think, how should the government, or should it engage with the educated youth to take part in the politics? If yes, then how should they proceed?
Sometimes people ask that a lot of our colleagues have gone out and have set up something. Someone mentioned Neta app, someone is working with BJP, someone is working with some other party, and they ask, how do I feel about it? I tell you, I feel great about it. I take great pride in the fact that someone who has worked with us is able to go and stand on his or her own feet, influence or convince a leader who probably has spent as many years as the age of the guy and willing to listen to him or her. So slowly you see how many people today are able to work in this domain. Whether they call it PK team or because they need, it's a Modi effect, because they have seen him winning a campaign. But there is a definite greater appetite among the elected representatives or those who want to get elected to appreciate and engage with professionals. And that is one good thing we take pride in. How they should go about it, all these CM fellowships are actually linked to leaders' assessment that if they have a lot of young people, they would help the better branding, positioning of their themselves or their government or their schemes. It's a slow process, but hopefully in years to come, it's only going to get better. One worrying sign is the under 40 MPs, the proportion of people who are representing some sort of dynasty, because you will realize, probably you do not pay attention to this, but almost 2/3 of less than 40 years MPs belong to second or third generation politicians, which is not good, which is not good. So if everyone says that politics is bad, then as the phrase goes, and this is the most used phrase in IPAC and CAG, that if you don't choose to participate in politics, be ready to be governed by your inferiors.
Next up is Anusha Rajgopalan.
Hi Prashant. My question goes out on the campaigning strategy part of it. So, what is your opinion on conducting a debate, a televised debate, between the leading candidates of a PM or a CM election, much like the US-style presidential debates?
It would be great. The problem is, as a country, we haven't witnessed it, but I have no doubt in my mind that it will happen. How much time it will take, I don't know. One of the excuses party give to avoid such debate is that we do not, because we have a parliamentary system, they say that technically or statutorily they are not forced to declare a Prime Minister candidate. So the problem becomes who competes with whom. But I'm sure in times to come, with increased awareness, gone are the days when people come out with a manifesto, do a couple of rallies, and people are willing to vote just because you are so and so. So it's a good idea, should happen. I'm sure there is huge support for this. Political parties have to walk this tough path. They will cross it in due course as the pressure builds.
Thank you.
Next up is Harsh Gargal.
Hi Prashant. So it's slightly a long question, so please bear with me. So I want to know, so despite the birth of institutions such as CAG and now IPAC, ground level reality strongly suggests that much hasn't changed post the implementation of the Mandal Commission's recommendations in the early 90s. By that what I mean is, especially when it comes to populist agendas that regional parties are using, which mostly revolve around caste, and they use that as the primary vehicle to cross the finish line in most of their campaigns. So do you think the prevailing equilibrium can change, and how do you plan to change it simply from a campaign strategy and execution point of view?
So caste is a reality, and much to the dislike of most people here, I do not see it as a problem element. Social congregation is part of the reality of human being. It is called caste in India, it could be called something else in US. But it's there, everywhere. We as Indians, we need not be defensive about it. That is not to say that caste system should be promoted. But just because party or people seek or vote on caste line is in itself is not a bad thing. It's democracy. You want to vote for someone who you believe would give you the access, would deliver what you want them to deliver for yourself or for your community or your neighborhood or whatever you want to call it. In terms of our ability to make the change at the grassroots, we haven't been able to do much because we are not the one who are part of the governance. But I tell you what is the positive in this and what helps us remain motivated and should remain for the people who choose to run organizations like IPAC or many others which has come now. Look at Bihar. in Bihar elections, Mr. Modi as the Prime Minister and the leader of the BJP promised 1.5 lakh crore of package, a special package for the state of Bihar. To counter that as campaign, we came out with what we called at that time, and is still called, Nitish ke Sat Nischay, 7 resolves of the Chief Minister, with the financial outlay of 2.3 to 2.4 lakh crore over 5 years. So basically, before the election, almost 60% of Bihar budget is tied to these 7 resolves or the commitments which he has made, that if you vote for me, if I happen to be your Chief Minister, these are the 7 things we will deliver. And these 7 things are basics, what people wanted. We went to almost 30,000 villages in Bihar and we surprised ourselves with the findings which we got. People were not asking for industrialization or white-collar job. People were asking for drainage. People were asking for running water, piped water. And I tell you, the situation is not very different in many other states. I am in Andhra, and drainage in rural Andhra is still the most single biggest problem which people want governments to solve. Which many of us, or I would say most of us, would get it wrong if I have to sit in the room and decide what people want from the government. But just imagine for a second, sorry, I'm going tangentially. In your flat or your room, for one day the water doesn't drain. What kind of misery it will create in your life. Such is the problem. So we take pride in setting the agenda through the campaign, which is basically influencing how the 60% of the budget of government of Bihar, no matter who is the minister, no matter who is the government, whether he was with Mahagathbandhan, where he is with BJP now, the 7 resolves remains the same. And that is one more reason why in all our campaign, I think we as a group insist on leader making a commitment. So it's a Modi's commitment, Nitish's commitment, captain's commitment, because there is no escape. But after making that commitment and getting the vote, if you don't deliver, I'm sorry, we don't have any way. Like a voter, we don't have any other option but to wait till the next election. If he or she chooses not to deliver on what they committed, we can't do much. But once they make the promise, they do try. I would like to believe that they do try, but that remains at least the priority of the government. Whether they are able to implement it or not, that's something that only time can tell.
Next up is Santosh Shivakumar.
Hey, is it audible? Hey, Prashant. So the question is, IPAC works with parties that have conflicting ideologies, right? So how do you prove your credibility to parties that you can support them with the strategies for the election? Also, the second point being, there's a huge risk that you might get to know their internal strategies and not partner with the same party in the next election. So what do you do to avoid that?
It's not a challenge because we don't reach out to any party. If I have to go and pitch that I want to work for you, then all these issues come. The data secrecy, ideology, whether you'll be working in future with my competing party and all. It's not how it has worked, at least till now. It's parties they approach, sometimes it's mutual, and it's a mutual co-opting of the work. And once you work, then it is not, as I said in the response to earlier question, there's no internal, external thing. In terms of this, about this ideology, I hear so much about, you don't have an ideology. It is like saying to a lawyer who has fought cases for 3 different clients with competing or different ideology, that lawyer does not have an ideology. That's not true. I personally, for the want of a better phrase, Indianized phrase, I would like to believe that I have an ideology which is closer to what in the West phrase is center-left. Because I do believe the government has a big role in a country like ours. But I also want to put a caveat. having an ideology is not necessarily same as being blinded by ideology. Make no mistake, those who talk too much about ideology, the leaders, it suits them for you to be blinded by the ideology. And it is not only true for the political leaders, the religious leader, the social leader, they want you to get intoxicated to some degree with this so-called ideology so that you lose the objectivity, you do not question them, you do not want them to be accountable. So I leave the choice to you, whether you want to be cynical about being ideologically wedded to a person or a group, or you want to have your ideology, but at the same time you also do not want to lose your objectivity. So if communists are ruling a state and they are not delivering on improving quality of service, how justified they are in asking you to keep voting just because you believe in communism? Do you want to subscribe to that? And then if they come across someone like me, they say, oh, you don't have ideology, but you have not delivered either. If you are true to your ideology, it also means delivering the services and the goods for the people. If you don't do it, why do you expect the supporter to remain wedded to you for times to come or for all his or her life? So yes, it's important to have an ideology, but it should not blind us to an extent where we lose our ability to question what is right and what is wrong.
Next up is Shraddha Raj.
Hi, Prashant. So my question is around the fact when you spoke about how it is about connecting to the people and understanding the people. So how do you condense all of the analytics that goes into the campaign strategy into one single message like Ab ki baar Modi Sarkar? You know, that captures the imagination of the entire country. What is the thought process that goes behind coming up with the exact language and the message?
It's like, you know, long back I met a lyricist, and he was giving me options after options, and I was asking him, how do you get it? How do you get it? If I sit in the room and try to think about a poem or a lyrics of a song, I can't do it in all my life. So it's something that happens, and make no mistake, most of the campaigns, the ideas, the messaging is not something that one individual has got it, whether it's me or one of my colleagues. It mostly, 9 out of 10 times, it's a function of group coming together and coming out with something, and we put it to the vote and people like it, then we say, okay, if it is liked by this set of people, then likely to be hit with masses as well. Ideas always are of the leader, by the way. It is not of yours or mine or anyone. But it comes through the churning. It's people like you, and they are very, very smart people who work with us. They come out with all these ideas. All the campaign which you would have thought of, the line which you mentioned or otherwise, it's not something which comes to my mind or I dream about it or I have a process through which I go and I get this. It basically comes from people who work, and we put together our head and we say, okay, this sounds lyrical, this sounds closer to reality, this is likely to work, and then we go and test. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work.
Dyuti Shukla.
I hope I'm not keeping you in this hall on the Sunday evening. How long we are going to be?
We have time, sir.
Okay. I don't want to spoil your Sunday.
Okay. Mike, you was working as a public health expert. What made you become a political campaign manager? What would be the reasoning behind this?
I always wanted to do public health. That's what I knew. That's what I did for my living. And that is what brought me in touch with Mr. Modi in Gujarat in 2011-12. When we started, the idea was to work on public health / malnutrition. As I told earlier, it just so happened that it progressed into something else. And then whatever has happened is largely known to the people. But given the option, I would love to go back, and still I think malnutrition is one problem where people should pay more attention, governments. It's a long-term thing. It's not glamorous. It doesn't give you vote. It doesn't make you form a government in 2 years or 5 years. It's a generational problem. So no one pays as much attention as they should.
One last question from Jayant.
Hi Prashant. In our country, we see a certain set of people aligning their aspirations with the ruling party, in this case BJP, and certain set of people aligning their aspirations with Congress, and as you have seen with Jagan Reddy, some regional parties. So, do you see an overarching identity of all these aspirations of regional parties and opposition parties like Congress aligning in one overarching identity against BJP in 2019? And if you foresee that possibility, will it give a credible challenge to Modi Jagannath?
It's something that is being debated every day on television. So my response is not going to be any more insightful than what most of you already know. It's difficult. It should not happen also, because why do you come together if you do not have a common idea, program, messaging, just to defeat someone? People will not buy it. That's my sense, but I could be wrong. Whether it should happen, could happen, should, definitely no. Could, possible. You are desperate, you see no possibility of standing on your own, you collaborate with someone, with making some adjustment. Whether that will last, whether that will be accepted, rewarded by the people, that's anyone's guess. But not an ideal thing to do.
Thank you, Mr. Kishor and Mr. Thakur.
Thank you.
Thank you, it's been a pleasure.